Hi everyone, it's Molly. I decided to do this video to talk you through what happened and what I liked and didn't like about this painting. This was my very first try at the deconstructed bloom. I did a collaboration with Karen from Waterfall Acrylics and we swapped techniques. You saw the painting that I posted, the blue one, but that was not my first one. This was actually my first one. And I really wanted to push myself with colors. And when you're doing something for the first time, I really do recommend going with a tried and true, something that you know works. So I'll walk you through some of the mistakes that I made here and that I changed and tried so many new things. And I don't think that this painting is ugly or a failure. It's just not what I originally had envisioned. So Karen had chosen the colors. We had chosen them together, actually, the orange and the turquoise. But I decided to go with a cream base instead of a white or a black like I normally do. And even in the video that I posted, I ended up going with a light blue instead. So here was my first mistake. If you could see, that copper that I just poured is thick, way thicker than any of my other paints were. And that is going to stop the blowout and stop all of those cells from forming the way that they should. And the paints aren't going to stretch out the same way. The second mistake that I made was trying a completely different blow dryer. I had to use this blow dryer on high. I didn't have the air attachment in, and it worked. It just didn't quite give me the bloom petals that I wanted for this painting. Without the air concentrator on, the air flows directly from the center of the blow dryer. Now here you can see, because that copper was so thick that it was not showing up and it did not blow out the same. And I was having to try to create a center where there should have been one just from simply using the blow dryer. My colors against the cream, as I tried to blow them out with this blow dryer, they ended up muddying a bit. And I also don't think I used enough of the base color when trying to blow those petals out. So at this point, I knew it's probably not gonna go the way that I wanted it to. But that is okay. At this point, I was just like, it's my first one. Let me just see how it's gonna look, what tweaks I would need to make to it. So you can see again, my centers are thicker and they're not stretching at the same rate as all the other paint. The paint consistency for the way that I do this technique is still relatively thick, but it flows really, really well. I had originally done 2 puddles here. And you can for sure do this with 2 puddles. But the way that I ended up blowing them out and stretching them, the 2 puddles ended up creating almost this big chunk of negative space in the middle. And the painting began to look very linear. And I didn't really want that. So because I hadn't used enough paint in the very first part of the base, my paints basically stopped moving at this point. So I decided I didn't really like that muddy color on the end and I wanted a little bit more negative space to try to balance it out. So I decided to scrape that part and just kind of spatula over that edge. So I don't mind the color combination, honestly. The cream is very pretty. It just tended to wash these colors out a little bit. I had also used cream as my cell activator, and I think I would have done better if I had used a darker cell activator. So I was trying to play with the negative space in the middle, trying to really figure out, how do I want this to look? And if you are stretching, you can see the paint is moving at a different rate than the colors, the base color was. And it created that little edge, that little lip that just went over. But if you are tilting this way, you may end up getting a very linear design. Even though I was tilting hard to the edges, it still ended up coming out with almost a straight line in the center. And I think that is just due to not having a ton of paint there in the center. And the paint just really wouldn't move any further than where you see it. I was really just not feeling the composition of this one. I didn't want to give up though, because it was a collaboration that I was doing with Karen. So I kept trying to maybe make some negative space or make some interest in the painting. And it really just wasn't working out. There was no more paint to stretch. It was just kind of done at this point. So at this point, you have a couple of options. You can always keep playing around. You can completely scrape the painting, or you can try to scrape like a certain area and come back to it, or re-pour that area. I was trying to see if maybe even my little squiggly lines that I add in would help, but it definitely did not. I didn't like what I had added, and so you can just kind of blend the paint back together. But I had worked on this for so long at this point that the paint was almost starting to solidify a little bit. So I decided, all right, I'm going to pour over it one more time. And another tip here is always have a little bit of leftover paint. If you do need to make a correction or fix something, it's always good to have a little bit of leftover. And you can see here, again, as I poured that base, the colors are not moving any longer. They are thick and stuck where they are. And so that base, when you tilt it, no matter what direction, is really just going to tilt in a straight line. So not using a blow dryer that I knew worked, having my copper too thick, experimenting with colors and cell activators that I hadn't experimented with before, using the two puddles and not having enough base, all of those things affected this painting. So it's really important to, if you're experimenting especially, keep all things constant and change one thing at a time so that you know what's working and what's not working. So I still love the beautiful effects in it. It was just the composition for me was just not quite there. The cream activator against that really thick copper ended up breaking a little bit. In some places you could see it. And the brown next to the cream with the turquoise, I didn't really care for that combination as much. Ended up muddying just a little bit. But I let it dry, and I think that you should let pieces like this dry, because sometimes they dry darker, sometimes you like them. It's almost a watercolor effect around the edges, which I did find quite pretty, even though the color is not my normal color that I would gravitate to. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Happy painting.